All right, I'm going to page 6 of your class packet. So go ahead and go to page 6. We are going to finish talking about parallel and perpendicular lines. Either yesterday or 2 days ago, I don't know, I can't keep track. We talked about parallel lines and how they never intersect because they have the same slope but different starting points. Now we're going to look at perpendicular lines. So to review from that day 1, perpendicular lines are lines that intersect at 90 degrees. Okay, it's not just two lines that intersect, they have to intersect at 90. In order for them to intersect, they have to have opposite reciprocal slopes. Opposite means they're different signs. One has to be negative, one has to be positive. Reciprocal means it's the same fraction, just flipped. So for example, 3/2 and 2/3 are reciprocals of each other. That's always the part that people forget, that students forget, is both things have to be true. They have to have opposite signs and be reciprocals. So this first question says, find a line that is perpendicular to this equation and passes through this point. So their slope, this is already into slope-intercept form, so their slope is 3/1. If my equation, my slope has to be an opposite reciprocal of that because they're perpendicular. So 2 things, I gotta change the sign. If theirs is positive, that means my slope's gonna be negative. Second, theirs is 3/1, I gotta do the reciprocal of that, or in other words, flip it to be 1/3. So the slope that I should be using for my equation should be -1/3, and that's it. Don't use anything else in that equation. Don't try to use the 12 somewhere. No. All you take from that equation they give you is how to find your slope. Then you got to use the x and y they give you in your point to finish solving the problem and get your b. So y is -5, x is 6, plus b. So if I solve for b, -1/3 times 6 is -2. Add 2 on both sides and you get -3 equals b. So my final answer is going to be y equals -1/3 x minus 3. This line and this line are perpendicular to each other if you were to graph it. Okay, let's try, which one should we try? Let's try number 3. So number 3, same thing. To get my slope, to get my m, I gotta look at their slope and then flip it and change the sign because it's perpendicular. However, theirs is not in y equals mx plus b. So I'm gonna go off to the side and I'm first going to convert that. So I gotta move the x to the right-hand side by subtracting it in this case. So 2y equals -x minus 10. Divide everything by 2. There's technically a 1 here. So that's gonna leave as -1/2 x. And then -10/2 is -5. All right, so there's their equation. Their slope is -1/2. Since it's perpendicular, that means I'm gonna have to take this m, I gotta change the sign, so my slope's gonna be positive, and I gotta flip it. So instead of 1/2, 2/1. That has to be my slope for my equation. I gotta change the sign and flip the fraction. Now, 2/1 can also just be 2x. Does not matter. But what does matter is I'm not using their -5. I could care less about that. I'm looking at what is their b value with my given x and y. So instead of y, we have 3. And instead of x, we have b. So 3 equals 10 plus b minus 10 on both sides. I get -7 equals b. So my equation is going to be y equals 2x, or 2/1, minus 7. And there's my answer. All right, let's see. Let's go with question 6, because question 6 is a little tricky. So question 6 says, what line would be perpendicular to x equals -2 and goes through the point 3, 4? Okay, this one's a little trickier because when it's in this form, x equals, you know, up to this point, it's always y equals something. X equals means the slope is undefined. So let's say we had a graph. So x equals -2. This is the only time that your starting point goes on the x-axis because it says x. So at -2 on the x-axis, I'm going to put a point, and then it's just a straight up and down vertical line. That is what x equals 2 looks like. The slope is undefined because there's no y-intercept. There's nothing. So if we want to try to find a line that's perpendicular to this one, again, has to intersect it at a 90-degree angle, we got to actually use this point and look at it on a graph. So if I plot the point over 3, 1, 2, 3, up 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, it would have to go through this line or this point right here and create a horizontal line in order for them to intersect at a 90-degree angle. So I just have to figure out what is the equation here of this horizontal line. Well, if it's horizontal, I know it should be in this form. Y equals just one number. The slope is 0. I just gotta know what is my B or my Y intercept. Well, where would this horizontal line touch the y-axis? It would touch the y-axis at 1, 2, 3, 4. So my answer can either be in the form of y equals 0x plus 4 or just y equals 4. This line would be perpendicular to an undefined vertical line. So that's a little bit trickier. When you have that case where it's x equals, that's the only time where the whole process of like solving for b, plugging in your x and y isn't going to work. You have to think of it more on terms of what it looks like on a graph. If it's a vertical line, in order for it to be perpendicular, it'd have to be a horizontal line. And so a horizontal line has a 0 slope, and then you got to figure out where would it touch the y-axis in order to intersect that vertical line that they gave us. So again, I would suggest going through here and finishing these other examples and then working on your homework packet.